Ahoy shipmates, I'm August Sandberg and this is a new season of the QUARTERDECK Sailing Podcast. Thank you for coming back and for being one of our beloved listeners. This podcast is brought to you by the QUARTERDECK, our online membership site where you can learn a ton about sailing through video, articles, live streams, and our very knowledgeable community of like-minded folks. Go to quarterdeck.59-north.com and sign up today for a 2-week free trial. This week, Andy Schell and myself discuss sails. We are ordering new sails for our 148 ISBJÖRN, and that's an opportunity to evaluate how the sails have worked for us up to this point and to consider if we want to change anything. I hope you enjoy this and that you learn something and that you'll have a really great day. Good to see you, Andy. Tell me again where you are and what's going on.
So I'm on board Spica in the water at our little boat club in Enköping, and we just put the mast in yesterday. And I was describing to you before you were like, "Hang on, should we just record this?" My desk is currently a brand new Jabsco toilet, still in the box that my computer is sitting on in the middle of the salon while I'm sitting on one of the settees. Spica has a nav station, but it's not big enough to do actual work at. It's tiny. We launched the boat on Saturday, and I went to like test the head as soon as we put it in to like flush it. And I did like 2 pumps, and every single seal was leaking. And I was like, "Fuck this!" And I immediately unbolted it and threw it in the dumpster.
Oh god damn! Was that has it been frozen? You think?
Probably. And we haven't used the boat in 2 years, and it had given us trouble the last time we used the boat. I'd replaced like cobbled together part of the pump, and I was like, I clearly hadn't put it away properly because I lifted the lid up and it was like a horror show inside the bowl, and I was like, okay. And then I flushed it a couple times and just water went everywhere, like from every outlet possible. And I was like, all right, I'm not even going to waste my time here. Let's get rid of this.
Probably best thing to do. And you got yourself a nice little work desk.
Got a work desk, yeah. Might save the box.
That's perfect. So you're getting ready for the Gotland Runt race and some family cruising, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, the really family cruising. And then because I am, can't help myself, I was like, oh, well, this could give us a good mission. So we entered Gotland Runt, and we've got 4 crew joining me, and Vilma are going to run the race. All the crew have been prior 59 North crew that sailed with me on various passages. So I'm very excited about that, and it gives us a little mission. We'll basically have the next, pretty much the next, I guess, 5 weeks now to finish putting the boat together, sail out to Sandhamn, or Stockholm, basically. The start of Gotland Runt's in Sandhamn, but there's a prequel, like a feeder race from Stockholm out to Sandhamn 2 days before. So I'm going to meet the crew in Stockholm. We're going to do a day of training. Then we're going to race out to Sandhamn and then have a lay day to get the boat ready and go over strategy and stuff. And then the race itself starts from Sandhamn, sails around the island of Gotland, and finishes back in Sandhamn. It's really cool. I did it 3 years ago now with Nikki and a couple friends from Stockholm. So it's awesome. It's an excuse to spend money on the boat, basically.
Yeah, we all need those, and Spica it's pretty cool because the Spica was specifically built for that race, isn't that right?
Correct. Yeah, she's a Norline 34 special. So it was built for one of the guys who managed the production facility actually on the island of Gotland at the time, is where this was built in the 70s, and he had her commissioned with a slightly different interior layout and a different deck and cockpit layout specifically to race Gotland Runt. So it's like I feel obligated.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, it's kind of like you wouldn't want to take that away from the boat. It's kind of in her destiny. So that's really cool.
I've said this before, and this is not the topic of today's podcast, by the way, but just a fun little intro here. But I've said this before, that of the 3 boats that we have in the fleet in 59 North, I think Spica is my favorite. Like all things considered, because Spica is basically, don't tell ISBJÖRN I said that, but
I was just gonna say,
but Spica is really like, if you would look at the silhouettes of both boats next to each other hauled out, you almost wouldn't be able to tell the difference. It's basically Spica is like a mini ISBJÖRN, and while ISBJÖRN is probably more beautiful, like the smallness of Spica is kicks it for me. Like having come from Falcon, from this 65-foot monstrosity that is become is easy to handle now that I'm used to it. But like, oh my God, this boat is so easy. It's so easy. Everything's so small and little, and it's just such a relief. So like that that's the kicker for me. It's like, okay, it's beautiful. It looks nice. It sails amazingly well. And it sails like a mini ISBJÖRN, but it's so light and easy to handle and just like easy to work on. So that puts it over the edge for me.
Yeah, she is a really sweet boat. I'm one of these days I'm gonna get over there and we can have a sail together. That'd be really cool.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, we were going to talk about sails today, and this was another one of we started talking about getting new sails for ISBJÖRN here the other day, and again I was like, hey, wait, we should record this, and so we put that whole conversation on ice until now, and because ISBJÖRN's sails are getting quite on in years, and we have to get new ones, and on doing that, we started talking about, all right, when we're getting new sails, are we just gonna want to replace what we already have, like get new ones, or that is an opportunity to change things up a little bit if we so wish. So that's where we ended it. The sails that's on now, the white sails, they're from 2015, is that right?
They were ordered and measured in 2015, but they weren't installed. The mainsail came first. That was in February 2016, right before the first Caribbean 600 we did. So the mainsail's been on the boat since February 2016, and then I think the two head sails were added later that season. So sometime in early 2016 is when the mainsail, the two jibs are from. And the staysail, I think that staysail actually came with the boat. That's just a Dacron staysail. I'm pretty sure it came with a boat. So I don't even know how old it is.
Right. Yeah. It doesn't come out so often. So it still looks fantastic.
Before we dive into this, I want to just give a quick little housekeeping thing that I noticed. You had asked a question on the quarterdeck for people to put topics they're interested in us talking about on the podcast. And it's been really fun to read those, and we immediately have 5 or 6 different things that sound really fun to talk about. So please add to that list, go on the quarterdeck, and tell us what you want us to talk about on these episodes and stuff, because it's great inspiration.
Yeah, that's been really fun. Got a lot of engagement on that one, and don't be afraid of making it very specific to whatever you are struggling with or wondering about. It's always fun to do these kind of. We allow ourselves to get very detailed and specific here, so that's always a lot of fun. So this one did not come off that list, but we'll probably get into those questions next week, I think.
Cool. How do you want to? Where do you want to start this conversation? Because as I see it, we've got two things to talk about: both the sail plan in terms of like what sails are we going to get, and then the material. What are we going to have them made out of?
Yeah, I think we can probably talk. Let's talk the material first, because I kind of just first explaining what we already have on ISBJÖRN. I was looking over these these old sails, and our chart guy Chad Lanway, shout out to Chad. He recently put together some really cool statistics from all of our tracking on ISBJÖRN, and as of December 2023, ISBJÖRN had sailed 59,133 miles, which is there's probably a little bit less than if the tracking started just a little bit before those new sails were fitted. But again, ISBJÖRN has sailed thousands of miles now since December, so that should be pretty accurate. And she has spent a total of 3 years, 7 months, and 17 days at sea sailing. That's like underway, which is that's pretty impressive for these that same set of sails. And just for fun, I did some math here. And do you know if we had used ISBJÖRN if we're gonna put the same amount of work on the sails, but divided that up in using the boat 4 weeks a year. Do you know how long it would take for us to get to that same mileage or amount of use?
I mean, I could do the math, but I'm going to ask you to tell me.
48 years.
Oh my God.
And that's if you use the boat, that's sort of what I expected a normal cruising boat people might have would get the use out of. So I just wanted to express my admiration for the quality of these sails. They're still fairly good, and it's just incredible how well they've done.
That's wild. So also shout out to Chad. You can see all this. Chad built the maps. If you go to maps.59-north.com, you can click on the box that says historic, and you can pull up all the historic passage, like the actual tracking data from each boat, including he just added Spica on there from the last Gotland Rund. And or you can click all passages, and it shows you all the lines of all the boats we've sailed. In total, we've done 127,914 miles on all 4 boats, including Ice Bear. ISBJÖRN has done 60,688 since, and we've had this tracking data from the very first passage on ISBJÖRN. So it's pretty neat. But this maps thing, if you haven't played around with it, I highly encourage you to go there and do that, because there's all kinds of, you can see the live tracking plus the historic stuff plus the future scheduled passages where we're going to go there. So it's pretty fun thing. But that stat is like unbelievable when you think like, if you're just an average coastal cruiser saying how many years do you think I can get out of my sails, I guarantee the sailmaker is not going to ever say 48.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And that's sailing 24 hours, right? So if you use your boat 8 weeks a year, but you stop at night, you anchor or you dock at night, that becomes eight weeks of use a year for 48 years. Now,
somebody's going to probably nitpick that data, and I think I have to give a caveat. I think, and Chad would say this, I think the time at sea is calculated as when the tracker is on. So that's not, it's probably less than that 3 years spent at sea.
Yeah.
But it's close. I mean, the boats sailed a lot. So that's just as a caveat, the people that are going to preemptively, I'm preemptively squashing the nitpickers there. The point is the sails are old and they've done a lot of miles in time.
And they've done very well. And I would like to say too that it's, the number of miles is not really what kills sails. It's like how you use them. So I think it's a credit to the sails. It's also a credit to how they've been handled and cared for and sailed throughout all those years. So which is also very important. But I'm very impressed. And the sails that's on there now are these Hydronet sails, which is, Dacron weaved in with Dyneema, right? Or with Spectra?
Yep. Yeah. So it's a woven cloth as opposed to a laminated sail. So woven cloth, and the fibers are a blend of Dacron and Dyneema. So the construction that is used with Hydronet is very similar to Dacron construction. We can get into that crosscut versus tri-radial. So you construct them the same way as Dacron, and it looks like Dacron, but it's a way less stretchy material, so they hold their shape longer, and it's more durable to chafe and UV. Yeah,
super solid. So that's having sailed so much with these sails, and also having been on the completely other, because it's quite expensive. That's one of the downsides to this. And I remember when we got a new main for that first offshore boat, I had the Baltic. We had no money, so we got the absolute cheapest mainsail we could get, which was just standard Dacron. We ordered it online, did the measurements ourselves, and the quality is just, like, it's outstanding. Like, it's really the seams, the cloth itself. So there's really there's a huge spectrum of what you can get here in terms of material. Even if you get Dacron sails, like, there's just the quality difference can be enormous. So I'm very impressed with those, and it's cool that that they're woven too. I think, especially for like these more northern climates, with them being it like breathes a little better. That's at least what I've heard of other people sailing up here in the north. That's you get a lot of mildew and stuff in the laminated sails. So that's also an advantage. So I think I'm very impressed. I think I would like to go for the same again. Though there is there's some downsides too in terms of weight, especially.
Yeah, I don't think we need to delve too much into this. I think let's just keep it the same. I agree with you. We have laminated, actually they're called membrane sails on Spica and Falcon, and that's where a giant like 3D printer prints the sail in carbon fiber strings. That's what provides the strength, and then there's layers of different things laminated on either side of that to provide like the structure and the UV and chafe protection. So that was like a consideration, but I don't think there's any reason, like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I don't think there's any advantage ISBJÖRN's going to see over that, so let's keep it the same. In fact, that's a big question today is, are we going to just keep everything the same? Because like the main, like we can get into the details, but I think for number one, material, leave it the same. I think it's fine. I think it's the best option for ISBJÖRN, and like it works. We know how good it works, so why change it?
That's right. I mean, if this has really been working fantastically. So there's never change a winning team. Isn't that what you?
Yeah, exactly.
What you say? Yeah. No, I 100% agree. So yeah, sale plan wise, of course, the next thing. Now we have that main. There's 3 deep briefs in it, and we have a 105 jib for like upwind work, fairly high aspect ratio jib, and then we have a is that a 130?
135, 130, something like that. Yeah.
Genoa, which has a fairly low clue, and then we have that storm jib that goes on the inner stay with Hanks, and it's been there's no real kind of I've been very happy with how that's been working. The kind of one time. Or I guess there's 2 situations where I've felt the sail plan lacking a little bit. That is going upwind in very light airs when there is a bit of swell, a bit of waves going. That you got the sail area in that big Genoa, but it's just too heavy to stay filled if the winds are light enough. So that's when I've been kind of craving something like a Code Zero or something like that would be really nice. And then there's also another issue that might have the same answer, which is kind of beam reaching in very light airs. Like when I'm using the symmetrical spinnaker that ISBJÖRN has, and you're getting headed and the wind is coming more and more forward, and you're onto a beam reach, and now suddenly, your pole is just almost in line with the hull, and that doesn't really work like that very well. I guess we would need that reaching strut to make that.
I was going to ask if you have that reaching strut. I don't think you do though.
No, I think it's in your dad's shed in Annapolis.
Yeah, I think so too.
Maybe I was just ordering tickets for Annapolis. Actually, maybe I'll add another checked in luggage, and I'll bring it with me back.
See what they say when you check that in at the counter. 8-foot long aluminum pole. Actually, I think it might be carbon, but yeah. That I mean, you're right. The Code Zero might be the answer to that. Now we're talking about adding sail inventory, and now you get into like, okay, how are you going to rig there's a whole Code Zero thing. How are you going to rig it? Are you going to build a bowsprit? I think you have some information on that. But if we go back to the head sails, we started talking about, do you change, like, do you go away from the big Genoa? So like we've got the 135% Genoa, which the boat needs when going upwind in light air. What do you think? Up to about 10 to 12 knots true. You need that big Genoa to get the boat moving upwind.
Yeah, probably.
In flat, in even with any swell. And then above 12 knots of wind, you're almost always using the smaller Genoa, the 105, going upwind. It's easier to tack. It gets enough horsepower, and that can be partially furled, and that's kind of your like up to really heavy weather where you put the staysail up. We're talking about upwind. And what happens with the Genoa is as you start bearing away from like 60 degrees apparent to when you're going to put the kite up, or even downwind with a pole with just a jib, the lower clew of that Genoa is like a disadvantage because water starts pounding the foot of the sail. It's hard to see under. The shape of the sail is more of an upwind sail, so the leech starts falling off really quickly. You've got to move the car forward. You got to move the leads a lot. So that's where, like on Falcon, we have this. It's called a Yankee or a jib top or a what did you call it the other day? A spanker. It's basically a high clewed, full cut reaching sail. So it doesn't point. So like you're limited to like 60 apparent down to like 120, and it sets really good on the pole because of the high clew. You can see underneath it. It's got more draft in it, so it's like a curvier shape, creates more lift, but it's not an upwind sail. So like if we're going to change away from the big Genoa on ISBJÖRN, you're now missing, like that's going to be great in all instances except the sort of 12 knots and under upwind situation, where now you don't have a sail to fill that slot. So then do you like go to a code zero? What do you do? So that, I think that's actually the question we're trying to answer today. Like we haven't answered that yet, hence this conversation.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, the good thing about that big Genoa that's on the boat right now with the low clew is that it's a very, very versatile sail. Like you can use it. It's good upwind if if as long as there is enough of it, and and even it can go upwind in very light airs too, as long as the water's flat. So it's really good, and also you can pull it out. It works. It works pretty well. Like you lose a bit of control over the luff, and it twists a lot in the top and
the leech
and stuff like. The leech. That's right. And so it's not really ideal for that, but it is a very useful sail, and I feel like sail shape is like it's way more important going upwind than it is going downwind.
Totally. Yep.
So it's really, if you have to make that sacrifice, or you have to balance these things. It's better to use a sail that's cut for going upwind as a downwind sail than the other way around.
Well, it works versus it doesn't work. Almost. It's binary. An upwind sail works downwind. A downwind sail does not work upwind.
Yes.
And we're not talking about spinnakers and white sails, like the cut of the sail.
Yeah. 'Cause, I mean, anything can go downwind. That same kind of goes for hull shapes and what have you.
True. Exactly. Yeah. True.
Yeah. So I kind of and also with it changes a bit depending on what the mission is too, because the like offshore, I feel like it's easier to argue for these more specialized sails because conditions change much more slowly. So you'll have, it'll be worth, when you're coastal sailing, you might be, especially like along the mountainous coast of Norway, it's like you'll have funneling winds for 30 minutes, and then you'll be a wind shadow for the next hour, and then you're going upwind for 2 hours, and it's like it can be quite like it wouldn't be worth changing out the sails for the wind shifts that you have.
not just conditions, but your course changes way more often.
Yeah.
So like you're gonna, even if the conditions don't change, the relative conditions change as your course changes.
Yeah. Yeah, the wind speed
That's a good point.
And wind angles just switch around a lot, which is an argument that I've used also for trying to find something nice to say about in-mast furling. It's also under that kind of conditions actually quite nice because you can brief the sail in seconds.
Yep.
And sometimes that's you'll have certain conditions for like 10 minutes, and then they're going to change. So
I think we should say too, like we've talked a lot about sails over the course of these podcast episodes, but to reiterate that, like, we're specifically talking about head sails for ISBJÖRN because she is, like Spica, a head sail driven boat. It's really important that you have the right head sails for that boat because most of the horsepower comes from the head sails. The boat was designed with these huge overlapping Genoas and a relatively short boom, high aspect ratio mainsail. So proportionally more of the sail area is coming from the head sails. Whereas a more modern boat, like Falcon's kind of bridges the gap between like the old school and the new school, where you have a much longer boom, more mainsail area, and more proportional sail areas in the mainsail. So it's a mainsail driven boat. So the head sail matters slightly less than it does on a head sail driven boat. So it might not, if somebody listening to this that has a newer boat that maybe has a big boom and a small, even self-tacking jib, in that sense, you're probably going to have one jib that does most everything. But what you're lacking there then is downwind sail area, because those boats were designed, a lot of the modern, like real modern boats that have a fixed bowsprit, like even the new Hallberg Rassies are doing this, where you've got a fixed bowsprit, like that's part of the hull. You've got a self-tacking jib, and then in order to get the correct sail plan downwind, like past a beam reach, you want to be flying a code sail from that bowsprit, or you're going to be way underpowered. But upwind, and reaching and stuff, your jib there is going to do most. You might only have one jib, but instead you might have 2 or 3 downwind sails. Whereas on ISBJÖRN, we have one spinnaker and 2 or 3 jibs. So it's a little bit of a different philosophy there, depending on the design of your boat. We should just kind of as a caveat as you're listening to this, take into account what kind of boat you have, and is it head sail driven or mainsail driven is going to drive your sail plan selection.
Yeah, totally. Then you go to the other extreme of like race boats with these like square top mains, like enormous roach, and just like it's that you can really tell that is the engine of the boat.
Dude, we saw there's a new super yacht that Alex and I were like ogling over in Antigua. It's a real sleek, like racy looking sloop, and I forget how big it is. It's like close to 400 feet. I want to say it's enormous, and It's a sloop. It has a square top main and no fixed backstay, running backstays only because of that square top main. Like, can you imagine tacking that thing? Like, don't miss attack there, Mr. Running backstay tender. Like, Jesus.
Oh man, yeah, that must be scary. I mean, that must have a ridiculously tall mast.
Yeah, you look at like when you're anchored out in the harbor there, and you see like all the boats at the dock. Its mast like towers above every other one there, because a lot of like the really big boats are split rig. There'll be a schooner, or like Maltese Falcon has like 3 masts with square riggers on it. It's a bigger boat, but a shorter mast. And that thing, the mast is just 20% taller than any other mast in the marina.
Jeez,
it's
that's
wild.
Nuts. Yeah, crazy. So it's all about the head sails on ISBJÖRN, which is why this is so important. That's right. The one thing we also touched on was have our cake and eat it too by putting up a solent solution.
Yeah.
On ISBJÖRN, where, because it is, that I'm saying that sometimes it's just not worth swapping out the head sails.
Yeah.
That is neatly fixed by just putting 2 furlers up at the bow and having the big Genoa on the forward furler, and then possibly with the high clue, like a blast reacher thing, and then you could have the upwind on the innermost one. So that's my favorite rig for ocean sailing specifically. The 2 boats I sailed that had that design into it, the Saga 43, which is a Bob Perry design, and Outbound 46, have that built in. What you lose there is the ability to tack the larger Genoa. If you're using the outer Genoa as your upwind sail and you need to tack it,
the slot on a Solent rig, because it's really one right after the other. It's not like a cutter rig where it's further back. It's like as close as you can get to the masthead and to the bow. So there's no slot between there. So you have to roll it up and tack it. So that's a compromise. But what you have there is both of your head sails are now always there and accessible just by rolling in and out. So like for shorthanded sailing, for sure that's the preferred rig. For ISBJÖRN, like, I don't know, I think to me, like, yes, it's like in a vacuum, it's like the thing, but it's not how the boat was designed to sail. And not to mention, it's just like a big project to make that work. You got to find a fit. You got to find a strong point on deck and reinforce that with a chain plate that may now interfere with your anchor locker. You've got to, retrofit the mast. It's like, I don't know. It makes me tired thinking about the work required to do that. And it just feels, I don't know. It feels weird. It's like it's not how the boat was designed to sail. But you could also say that it wasn't designed to have a furler at all either. So you could take that to like an extreme. But I don't know. That's my feeling on it as of today. Is I think it's probably. Plus, we also have like bigger crews, and what you compromise with only having one furler up there is like, okay, now if the wind pipes up in a hurry and you're either can't or don't feel like changing down to the small jib, you just roll it up a little bit. And your compromise is the sail shape isn't as nice as if it was a smaller upwind jib. But you can take that 135, roll it up to 2 reefs, and still happily sail upwind. Maybe not as efficiently or point as high, but you can still do it.
Yeah, it is possible. Yeah, it is like the number of crew is a huge thing here. Like we always have plenty of hands on our boats to do this, and yeah. So I think, and it's something that people really like to do as well. Like it's I felt bad often, like calling people out of their bunks, like, hey, we gotta swap out the head sails, because it is, especially at night, and often you want to do that because the wind is increasing and you're going upwind, and it's quite a wet and challenging thing. But often when we've done that and people we debrief stuff, and people I think that's a very cool thing to do. So it's yeah. We don't want to make it too easy either, right?
Do we want to? Well, that's right. People pay a lot of money to sail with us in challenging conditions.
That's right.
Do you want to talk about the Code Zero thing?
Yeah, totally.
So you were telling me about you met another Swan owner at Vindo that had retrofitted a bowsprit and set up for Code Zero.
Yes, that was. I've been talking to him for a while. After we met during the Shetland race last year, Tor Kamvik Sivertsen is his name. Great guy. He has a Swan 46. And,
proper Viking name there, hey.
Oh yeah. He is a proper Viking for sure, and he came into Lerwick there after the first leg of the race with his bowsprit just pointing straight up into the air. A very, very excited Swan that came in after a blow, and he had an aluminum just Selden kind of off the shelf bowsprit on there, and now he's been to Vinda like us. The boat's been shed mates over the winter, and he put in a new one, really sweet stainless steel solution that looks really great. So I think that it looks great. I'm also a little bit have the same feelings that you might have about the Solent rig on the Swan, and that this isn't really the way it was built, and I'm sure the classic Swan forum would disapprove of me putting this on there. But I mean, it looks like a really, really neat solution. I'll send you the photo here so you can check it
do
out.
it. Yeah. So are you like tempted to do it? I mean, if we talk about Code Zero while you're pulling that photo up, a Code Zero, I've talked a lot about this too. It was designed as a rule beating sail back in the 90s during the Whitbread race. So like the Whitbread boats were only allowed to carry a certain number of downwind spinnakers, they were only allowed to carry a certain number of head sails, and to get around that, they needed, one of the boats said, we need a super light wind upwind sail. But they had already had their capacity of head sails. They didn't want to take anything away. So they designed a sail that would measure as a spinnaker, but in practice be used as a flat upwind sail. And it had and there's a whole details about how boat sails measure as a spinnaker. I won't get into that, but that's how it was designed and invented. And now when we talk about Code Zero now, usually we're talking about cruising sails. And a cruising Code Zero is, people confuse it as a downwind sail. It's a light wind upwind sail. People do use them in lieu of spinnakers. If cruising sailors don't want to have a spinnaker or even an asymmetric, you can use it for that because it's a lot bigger and it's lighter material. But in reality, it's a flat upwind sail for very light winds. So that's kind of what you started this talking about, is what do we do? You're missing that gear, so to speak, when the boat's going upwind in very light air, but there's a sea state. And this being a lighter sail would accomplish that. And I'm looking at this picture now. This guy's got this bowsprit out the front, pretty similar to actually the way that Falcon's bowsprit is integrated in with the anchor roller. And what you need with the Code Zero is you need the bowsprit because it has to be out beyond the pulpit. You need a place to tack the sail, and then it would be hoisted on a spinnaker halyard. The difference being that it's a very high tension luff. So because a Code Zero is an upwind or a reaching sail, you have to have a lot of luff tension. So you use a high-tech halyard. It's got Dyneema in the luff of the sail. And you need a really stout bowsprit because there's a lot of tension on the luff of that sail, as opposed to even an asymmetric spinnaker, you're never going to put that much tension in the luff of the sail. So this is cool. It looks really well done anyway, and it does accomplish what you're trying to do. But the question is it necessary?
Yeah, it's it's kind of, as you pointed out when we talked about this last, is that you can't tack this as you would a big Genoa. So it's not really the same. It doesn't cover that same niche that the big low-clued Genoa does, in that you can't really tack this going upwind in light airs, which is unfortunate. But it would sail great upwind in light airs, and it would also be, you can fly this really great on a beam reach too, where that symmetrical spinnaker would fall off. You could use this to set as well, and you wouldn't
have to carry a reaching strut back to Sweden or back to Norway with you on the plane.
That's right. And the full, because of the way these furls up so nicely on these top-down furlers, to probably take less space on the boat too than the reaching strut.
That's true. Yeah.
So
that's what I was going to ask you, is do you think you have space for a Code Zero? Because like you say, it rolls up and then stows in a bag like a snake. So you got to find the space for that.
Yeah, they're remarkably small though. It's really, because the cloth is so thin, and when you furl it up like that, it's just incredible. I went to this local sailmaker here, had a couple of top down kind of nylon cloth, different, some Genekers and some Code Zeros in bags, and just they're so small, it's really convenient. And I think, the by far the largest project and the most invasive thing here is that bowsprit that you would need to fit there, and it is kind of an overlap with, there is quite a bit of overlap with the spinnaker too. A lot of boats, most boats either have a spinnaker pole or they have a bowsprit.
Right.
They choose one or the other, and so it's a bit of overlap having two, and there's do we really need it? It's not that often that this is required, but it would be.
Also the conditions the conditions you're talking about using this, most cruising sailors are going to opt to turn the engine on at that point.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, but that's not fun. That's no fun. That's not what we're talking about here.
Yeah, no, exactly. And it is you're missing out on some of the best sailing you can ever have. Like it's when you can sail, almost the same speed as the true wind speed, and it's all flat, and you can like close your eyes, and it's almost as if you were at the dock, and it's really quite remarkable. So
So have you made a decision? You and I haven't talked about what do you want to do. Have you made a decision? Like, not a decision, but do you have like a conclusion?
I think, I really want this Code Zero thing in the ISBJÖRN's toolbox. I think that would be quite cool, but I haven't really looked at how the bow and the stem head works with the like you said, with the windlass and the forestay and everything. And ISBJÖRN, we've pampered ISBJÖRN now this year, and she just had a big refit, and there might be there's probably other things that we need to spend money on before we do this. Like this is this very much feels like an optional bonus project. So
what about the normal head sails though? Have you we talked about the Yankee versus the 135. Do we change anything? Do we duplicate it exactly as it is now?
The way I feel about it now, I think we would just get the same ones.
Yeah, good. I feel the same way.
Okay.
I agree. I agree with that.
Perfect. That's that's great. I mean, again, never change a winning team. That's
I mean, I don't think we've, like, in that 60,000 miles we've sailed, I mean, you've done probably, I kind of left sailing ISBJÖRN in like 2019, so I probably did half of that. And I don't ever recall, like, wishing I had something different. Like, I was never like, oh shit, it'd be really nice to have. Because I think if we did, we would have done it by now. We would have just said, okay, we need a different jib, let's do it. But like, it's worked for this long, this well, and I don't recall ever missing, at least changing what we had. Yeah, you can always say, I wish I had a Code Zero or whatever. But like, as far as changing the sail plan, I think it's done pretty good. I think we did a good job from the beginning. And like, shout out to Chuck at Chesapeake Sailmakers, because he advised me on this originally when we did this sail plan, and he knows how we were sailing the boat, and he's like, this is what you should have, and he was right. So like, find yourself a sailmaker that shout out to all local sailmakers that can actually advise you on what you need versus you trying to come up with it on your own, because we can't take credit for this. This was Chuck's design.
Yeah, no, that's that is really cool, and again, like the sails are still in pretty decent shape. Like if it was just my own family boat, I wouldn't consider swapping them out now. They're still quite decent. It's it's a very impressive piece of work.
Cool,
great. So that's settled then.
So 135 Genoa, 105 Genoa, mainsail, all of Hydronet, and constructed in a tri-radial construction, exactly like we have it now, with all the bells and whistles on that mainsail that makes a blue water sail, like the battens going in from the luff, the external reef rings, all that stuff that we've talked about ad nauseum. But I think that's a good. It's like, it's easy. Like, this is easy. Let's just do that again. This feels good.
Absolutely.
I like this. We don't have to reinvent anything.
Yeah. Do you think Chuck still has those drawings available?
Sure.
Can we just
I
order
think
another couple?
Yeah, I think so. I'm pretty sure I have them on my computer, actually.
Fantastic.
So
I mean, that's also great, right? You wouldn't need to have a sailmaker come in and measure everything and
nothing's changed.
Start that whole design process again. So yeah.
All right. Actually, all right. Well, I have one thing I would change. One tiny detail.
All right.
Since these were built, it's now sort of in vogue. You no longer need metal rings on the corners. They're doing those with webbings instead. So like, you have webbings on the clew, the head, and the tack that are made out of Dyneema webbing. So webbing loop instead of a metal clew ring. And it's just so much better if you get whacked in the face with it when you're trying to get the sail down. And then you attach the sheets with soft shackles and everything. And so that's very subtle change, but like, that's kind of what you do now. No metal rings on the sails. It's all soft webs.
Interesting. Wouldn't
Yeah.
and that's chafe safe and all that.
Yep. It's how we have it on
Alright.
Falcon. It's awesome.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I mean that sounds like a really good idea. Because like when you go to swap these sails and the stuff and slide them down the foil and that clue starts whacking around, it can be quite dangerous. So
Cool.
all right. Good
Well, this
stuff.
was easy. Cool, man.
easy.
What's
peasy.
next week's topic? Do we know?
Nope, we haven't. We'll pick something off the ever-growing list of questions on the
Awesome.
quarterdeck. So for all of you guys out there, this is there's still a chance to ask your question or come with your prompt or whatever. So
Sweet. Cool. Thanks, Skipper. This was fun.
Perfect.
I like doing these.
thank you. Yeah, we're back on. This is great. I love this.
Cool. All right. Talk to you
right.
next time.
See ya. Bye. Thank you very much for listening. If you want to join the Quarterdeck, go to quarterdeck.59-north.com. The Quarterdeck podcast is produced by August Sandberg for 59 North. Music is by the Storm Weather Shanty Choir.